Good morning.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the organization to invite me. I decided to review all the work done so far, hoping this can help to support the next labors to conserve the lesser castle. I'm trying to share my uh, screen here. Okay. Focal species are those that condense different ecological and social meanings and are used for conservation actions. The lesser kestrel is a good focal species because the huge decline has led to a wide range of research to understand why. This research stated that is an environmental indicator of farmland change and is a quite good umbrella species. Thus, its conservation achieves broader environmental goals. Besides, its ecology allows a quite logistic easy of study and intervention, and in the end has quite high educational relevance. Just to have an idea of the effort made in recent years, I have counted the most relevant issues concerning the lesser kestrel. The graph opposite shows the comparison in logarithms to have the different magnitude of live project and indexed papers in Scopus comparable concerning the Egyptian vulture, the white stork, the lesser kestrel, and the barred swallow. You see that the lesser kestrel is the target of a large number of projects, 33 life projects and installments, and 250 and more indexed papers. And here is a list of the numerous national, regional, and international conferences like this one. Concerning the life projects and installments, 1 to 4 projects were continuously active since 1993. Actually, we have 3 active, and more than 53 millions of euro of total budget, of which 33 millions have been financed by the EU, have been employed in conservation. But we note here a first unbalance. 82% of the life projects have been implemented in just 4 countries. Of course, this because those countries, Spain, Portugal, France, and Italy, host the largest European population. But the next slide show a quite intriguing situation. Life project and budget increased from 1990 to 2009, so they have decreased over the past 10 years. This decrease coincided with the IUCN downlisting to list concerned species. So we might imagine that it was thought that fewer actions were needed for a species that had an improved status. But recent data, I report here those from Sicily, appeared in a local journal, and those appearing in the magazine Aves y Naturaleza and reported this morning by Javier Bustamante, tell us another story. After an apparent increase, the species is again in decline. So one main question to ask is, did we let our guard down after downlisting, or was the downlisting too hasty? This is maybe interesting to discuss and answer. Turning now to the scientific articles indexed in Scopus, I have divided them into 17 main topics. They are very varied, and I didn't expect, for example, such a number of articles on physiology, parasitology, etc. Most of the research on lesser kestrel so far has focused on habitat use and foraging ecology relative to land use around colonies. Besides, there are papers addressing the breeding biology, the colony formation and dynamics, and related movement ecology studies. At the first glance, some 60% of articles are more or less conservation oriented. Let's now see just the mainframe, because more space and time is necessary to talk about the contribution of each group of articles in solving the lesser kestrel problems. For instance, if we consider the geographic breakdown of the study area or population, is not the author address, but the study area or studied population, we see that the most studied population is in Spain with 126 articles. Then Italy comes with 30 articles and so on. Anyway, the most interesting thing to observe here is that there is a decreasing geographic gradient from west to east of the lesser kestrel range, and that outside of Europe, only the Israeli population has been studied. Let's consider very quickly some well-known issues. Take, for instance, the diet. 18 papers all agree that the Agrididae grasshopper are the main prey group, but what do we know about the biology and ecology of the main prey, about their cycles and fluctuations in the different habitats? Isn't it worth going into something more than the simple equation, traditional farming equal more insects, abundance and diversity? Could it help to involve a little more entomologists and agronomists? Or take the chemicals, just 7 papers, 5 of which in Spain, all showing but one little effect of pesticide on reproduction and survival. But our current study in Sicily seems to go in reverse. It's a sensitive subject that needs to be investigated more, and I feel that plans of Natura 2000 network should require ecological assessment of chemicals. The most striking example is land use intensification. This is, of course, the enemy, the big enemy, and it occurs often together with green power infrastructure, solar and wind energy. Curiously, just 3 recent Spanish papers actually deal with this topic. We need to know more about mortality induced by this infrastructure and the possible mitigation and minimization. If we divide farmland use change in 3 main axes of transformation: intensification, abandonment, and maintenance, that is, of course, not transformation, abandonment may have the highest share of habitat loss. We immediately realize that the abandonment of the land is the great challenge, equivalent, if not superior, to the intensification. In the period 2515, 2530, about 11% more than 20 million hectares of agricultural land in the UE are under high potential risk of abandonment due to factors related to biophysical land suitability, farm structure and agricultural viability, and regional and human population specifics. If we overlay the risk map shown here on the lesser kestrel map that we all have in mind, we immediately see that the best lesser kestrel areas are also those most at risk of land abandonment. And arable land and pastoral land are the dominant type of agricultural land in the UE that will account for the largest share of abandonment, and the numbers reported here are absolutely alarming. Land abandonment, which mostly affects Southern Europe, arable lands, can have different effects on farmland birds, depending on the biogeographical zone, species origin, and vegetation successional stage. In any case, as shown in the flow diagram in the figure, the abandonment of the soil means invasion of forests and shrubs, therefore greater loss and fragmentation of the habitat. If you note the ecosystem services listed in the gray boxes below, they derive from a transformation of habitats from open to closed, although net biodiversity can benefit and may increase, the loss of farmland species will be dramatic. The abandonment of land also means reconversion to biofuel, equal to greater intensification, loss, and fragmentation of habitat. Infrastructure for green energy, solar and wind power plants, that is again equal to greater intensification and habitat loss. This map shows the 2,500 new wind farms planned in Sicily for the post-COVID ecological transition. Not even a square centimeter of habitat will be left to fauna of open habitats. The ecological transition is thus planning a wonderful greener future for farmland species. Rewilding is, of course, the only best option when low-intensity farming is no longer possible. For lesser kestrel and farmland birds, rewilding means maintaining several steps. So we need active intervention and management in the next years to save an important share of habitat. The table below shows a suite of environmental effects of land abandonment. You can see that the positive effects do not involve directly lesser kestrel and farmland birds. The negative do. Moving quickly to the Eurocentric aspect of our research, we need to bridge the knowledge gap on African Asian populations, starting with those close to the main European range. For instance, the Maghreb area, Turkey. The African question is often mentioned, but usually underestimated. In practice, we know very little about what is going on there. Many of the issues are shared with Europe, such as the intensification of agriculture and infrastructure. Just to summarize, I mentioned here the project involving the largest roost of the lesser kestrel in Kaolack, Senegal, that French colleague can inform better. Or the several claims about cotton maize intensification in the Sahel area. And the figure outside shows some fixes of our kestrel that stop on intensive agricultural areas irrigated by aquifers in the Sahara. I bet it's not about organic farming. Oops. Just to finish, ecology, migration, and consistency of the genetically different variation population is a black hole. You can see a male with the typical grayer phenotype, much grayer than and much lighter than our Western populations, that correspond to a distinct genetic structure, and this population show a remarkable breeding plasticity, as this slide will show. Every stone of pile can be a suitable nesting place, and our effort to find a nesting place in these small cabins, wooden cabins in the Tuva Republic in Russian Mongolia was really amazing, and we found the place below the ground. To conclude, I didn't speak about the climate change and the problem of rainy springs that seems like this year to affect the lesser kestrel population. But there is much more to talk about. But I would recommend to reflect, to discuss about just a couple of issues. First, the creation of a survey scheme across the European range, let's say from Portugal to Greece, with a sample of sentinel colonies counted and habitat monitored with standard protocols, just to have an idea of the population trends in at least the Western European range. And secondly, can be important to strengthen the cultural aspect of lesser kestrel conservation. That is to transform it from an ecological focal species into a socio-ecological focal species. Pardon me the technical terms, but it means that much involvement, much actions in the social and educational issues can be done. And Regina Dominguez Arroyo talk of the 2nd of July is going, I think, in this direction. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Maurizio. Do we have any questions for him, Juncal?
No, we don't have any questions. Thank you.